What's going on, boys? It's Daddy Big here, and I want to welcome you back to the podcast. We got my main boy, Sam.
Mm-hmm. I'm back.
He is back. Baby got back, even. And yeah. So today, this was kind of something. This is one of those things that, like, on my phone, I have this whole reminders app. Or, like, I can write things down and give myself a time, and it'll remind me. It's just, like, a checklist. And basically, like, whenever I can't be bothered to go into a folder and open my notes app, but I want to write something down, I'll just write it there. And then I'll completely forget about it, you know? And then, like, months later, I'll find it and be like, oh, yeah, that thing, you know? And this was one of those ideas I just wrote down on my reminders for myself. Internal productivity versus external productivity. And of course, it's like, see, that was the kind of thing where I see it and I instantly remember what I was talking about. But this just whole kind of idea of how it changes when, and how, like, the feelings of productivity and your relationship with it change when it's something you're doing because you want to, or when it's something you're doing because someone's telling you to, you know, whether it's for a job or for school. That would be kind of external. Someone's telling you what to do, when to do it. Due dates would be a big part of that too, something you can't control. And then internal, that's just stuff you want to do, stuff you're doing for your own reasons, you know? And, you know, I feel like this YouTube channel is kind of a weird blend of both, because I have this pressure that I've set for, like, this pressure I've set for myself to maintain an upload schedule. But also that's kind of something I've done to myself, but it kind of has taken on its own identity. So, you know, that's the kind of things we're going to be cracking open. So did you have any opening thoughts here?
So I just wanted to say, like, internal versus external, like, motivation. There is...
Yeah, motivation's a part of it too.
Yeah,
alongside productivity.
Yeah, productivity. In terms of those things, I see such a stark difference in myself, especially when it comes to creativity.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, for sure.
And that's one of the biggest things, because, like, I used to write a lot, and I would just write. I'd sit down for a while, and just out of my, own free time, this is usually over summers or, like, less busy times, I would just be, I've got a couple, like, documents just on my literal school account that probably have around 150 pages, just because I just write like that. But then you sit me down for a creative writing class, and it will take me until the very last minute of work time that we are possibly given to write about 8 pages of a short story. So, like, the difference in creativity that I find between those two things is staggering. Like, what would you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective as a musician, and as like a career musician and a hobbyist artist, that gives me different perspectives, you know? Because for me, sometimes, I mean, my pixel art's different because that's something I do for myself.
Yeah.
You know? But as far as more traditional mediums, I often would find it difficult to get anything on paper. But in, like, when I took high school art class, you know, my teacher would give me projects to do, and also tell me, like, hey, I think you should try pen and ink on this one, or hey, you should try watercolor here. So it was more directed in a way, and that I was able to still, like, make my own art, but it was kind of a way where I was given the ideas for it, you know? And our teacher let us go off and do our own thing and have our own independence once we were older. But for me, I always felt like having a more structured environment, that more external motivator for making my art, kind of helped when I was in high school. Also probably just because, you know, for me, it's the kind of thing that I do for fun. It's a nice release, but it never really finds its way into my schedule. So having that time set aside every day, going to an art class, that really helped me. Just because, like I said, having that time set aside solely for that purpose gave me time where I could do it, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, I think that's a case where external motivators actually are really important. When something you enjoy that you want to do, but you normally wouldn't do just because, you know, it's not productive or whatever.
Sure.
So that was kind of how art was for me in high school. Was it was fun because, like I said, I was given that time to do it, and I could hang out with my friends and make cool art, you know? But as far as music goes, it gets really interesting, right? Because there are times where I'll be writing something and there's a deadline to it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's deadlines. Sometimes you can impose them on yourself, but even if you do impose them on yourself, they usually turn into their own entity, become an
Yeah.
external factor, or some other out of your control event
Yeah,
makes it a
it always
deadline,
seems
you
to.
know. And deadlines are both really good and really bad for composers like me because
Yeah.
it kind of, you know, they say enough pressure on coal turns it into a diamond.
Hmm.
The impending doom that is the deadline gets things on paper.
Mhm.
It gets things on paper. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? It just simply does. But
What would you say the quality of those things that you just get on paper would be?
well, you know, I said coal turns into diamonds. I think some of my finest work has been under pressure.
Hmm.
Because because here's the thing, right? With something with like composition, there's certainly merit to projects that take a long time.
Mhm.
Like pieces of your soul that you spend years writing,
Mhm.
you know, but that's just you can't most people can't make a living like that,
Yeah.
you know? And it's like also just, you know, having restraints is where some of the best creative things happen, you
Mhm.
know?
I can see that.
And a deadline is a restraint, you know?
Mhm.
And just like when you have a deadline, you focus on that thing,
Mhm.
you know? And when you focus on that thing, you start having ideas for it, you know? So
Mhm.
I just think that sometimes a deadline can be really, really good.
Yeah.
You know, as long as you understand how you work and how to pace yourself and schedule things out and actually get a work schedule, you know, because like as a musician, there'll be times when, especially for more performing
Mhm.
side of things, that's an easier example to throw out because, you know, like I've had more experiences like that where for a really like I've had really, really, really high stakes auditions in my life,
Mhm. I bet.
and like there was one time I got a letter from a pretty high level organization asking me to recommending me to audition,
Hmm.
and they told me that the program deadline for auditioning was in a month. So
Jeez.
I was like, all right, well, I guess we're going to do this.
Yeah.
And I was in high school. Every day for lunch, I would snarf down a granola bar in the bathroom, then go back to my band room and practice for 40 minutes.
Jeez.
I like I was taking lessons like minutes before marching band would start, you know.
Oh my
I
gosh.
was spent like so much time. And that's the thing, right? Is it was an overwhelming task. I had to
Mhm.
learn 3 completely different solos in like a few weeks and get
Jeez.
them ready to record.
Oh my gosh.
But that was and yeah, I was a little bit overwhelmed and it might have not been totally healthy,
Hmm.
but I stayed afloat, and more importantly, I had a job to do
Mhm.
and I made a plan. I didn't just go about it willy-nilly day by day. I
Mhm.
sat down and made a I drew it on lined paper. I drew a calendar
Mhm.
and broke down what I was going to work on every single day
Yeah.
to get myself ready for it. And I did that every single day,
That's impressive.
you know?
Yeah.
And like I never would have learned those solos if I wasn't going to audition with them.
Mhm.
And that experience genuinely propelled me into being a much better classical percussionist, you know? And so I guess and for composition it's always a little different
Yeah.
because it's always more nuanced of an experience than just playing something.
Yeah. Of course.
But my point is, as a musician, deadlines force you to get a job done.
Yeah.
And one way or another, you're gonna get that job done. One of my I met with a famous composer once, and they held a class for a bunch of people I was with at this event. And one thing that she said to me and to the whole group is that you know, well, first of all, she said that success is about being in the right place at the right time. Well, if you're in the right place, then the right time will come, right? And also, if someone gives you a job, if someone says, "Hey, can you do this?" Someone like as a composer gives you like a gig, say like a movie soundtrack, or like if you an audition or a part or a big opportunity, you say yes. And then after they leave the room and you've said yes and you've agreed on it, then you can figure out how the hell you're going to do it. You know, but that's really what it comes down to is you have to like take those opportunities to give yourself those jobs to do. And like, yeah, sometimes like, sure, there's the chance that you fall flat on your face
Mm-hmm.
because you bit off more than you can chew. That is a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess going into this, I didn't really expect external productivity to be a positive thing. You know, I thought it was going to be more like, oh yeah, you get the best things done when it's for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the natural thing you would think. But I guess talking about this now, there really is a lot to, at least for me, from my perspective as a musician, like a Korean musician, you know, there is a lot to be said for those deadlines and those things you have to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I guess it was just kind of like you talked about like scheduling and stuff like that. And I think that I was kind of like thinking about my own times when I've had that sort of external motivation imposed on me. And there's a very distinct difference when I do create structure in myself and when I don't. Because like if I'm not incredibly structured, the same like deer in the headlights sort of reflex kicks in as like you know, someone telling you to be funny or like, you know, be creative is essentially what's like, you know, asked in some of those situations. And it's like, you know, it's hard to just do that. But when you create a sense of structure for yourself, especially over a more like long-term period, I see a lot of benefits. And I guess I was just listening to you list off like your you know, times when you've encountered that, and it kind of just sprung to mind for me that one of the biggest times I've had it imposed upon me was pulling together my slam poetry pieces that I performed for
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, the last forensics competition. And those were entirely written by myself. I had to create all of the blocking for them and everything that it was completely constructed. And I very clearly laid out like what I wanted to do for each of them. Like I had a bunch of drafts of like potential pieces that I slowly narrowed down over the course of about a week, and then from there I had like one week dedicated to finalizing the writing, 1 week dedicated to finalizing the blocking, and then in the last couple days like just having all my notes together, all of my like additions, and finalizing those pieces. And I was just realizing that like how well that like I mean just contributed to the success of that there was the external motivation, external enforcement of productivity being that strict due date in which I'm going to have to step up on stage and perform all of these to a crowd.
Exactly. And I mean like how do you feel like the product turned out because of that pressure, you know?
I feel like it turned out pretty well. I mean, I could have been even more structured, just the fact of the matter, but I did great in that. And that's actually I wanted to tie that back around because that was actually the motivation that I'm going to perform poetry this year.
Yeah.
And yeah, just talking about this really it inspires me to take up a schedule and a structure for myself for this year because I have high hopes for this year.
Yeah. So, I mean like just an example of like having those deadlines. I mean like I decided, you know, every Sunday Terraria video, every Saturday Zombies video, podcast on Thursday, talking video on Tuesday, miscellaneous any extra video on Friday, you know? And like it's been really hard, to be honest, to like maintain that for myself.
Yeah, I bet.
And sometimes it's Thursday and I need a Zombies video for Saturday and I'm like, what am I going to even make? You know, but the point is like I'm doing it. You know? And I think that's been a big factor in my success too. But I mean it's like I mean, would I make better videos if I had more time to really think about them and make them out of pure inspiration? I mean, maybe. But I think that there needs to be a medium there. And kind of talking about this, you talk specifically about forensics. I mean, Daniel on the podcast told his story of telling the forensics coach that if he was ever asked to, he would rewrite a speech in a day. Yeah. And he was asked to and he did it. Yeah. And I think that is, I wish he was here right now to tell us about it because that's a prime example of that working under pressure. And that's an extreme example. He rewrote a whole like 8 to 10 minute speech in a few hours. Oh yeah. Realistically speaking.
Slapped it on a desk at the end of it.
Yeah. And that was, and that's what he went to nationals with. Yeah. You know?
It's incredible.
And that's just pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah. Actually, I've got a little, I don't mean to, make it seem like I'm flexing myself, but I actually have a personal example of that, which is in the middle of those very slam poetry rounds that I was talking about. I'd been kind of reading the room and like seeing what was getting like the most attention, and like what was getting people the highest. And I was looking at my pieces and I'm like, I could do better than this. And so we go on a break. I think it was about an hour and a half break. And during that time, I very hastily grabbed dinner and then turned about 3 stanzas into the next poetry piece that I would perform. I fully wrote. It was a lot shorter than the thing that Daniel had, of course, because it's just slam poetry. But I wrote a full 3-minute piece, and then performed that, and scored
Like after the break.
during the break.
Oh no, I mean like you performed
directly after the break. Yep.
So you wrote it and then just did it.
Yeah, I did.
That's pretty crazy.
And there were 32 people in that round, and that particular poem placed 7th out of 32.
Yeah.
So
cool. But I mean, it's just like that kind of the example I'm about to provide isn't precisely that applicable, but I just kind of I thought of it that, like that whole last minute preparation thing in high school before damn, I've never talked about this before. That's crazy. When I got my tendonitis, and for those of you who don't know, as a musician, tendonitis is not good. And yeah. I scored myself tendonitis in my right wrist. And here's the thing, like most percussionists that I know would just power through it and just play and hurt themselves. And like I've said in the past, for me, health has always been number one above like everything else, and that's just a choice I made for myself, you know. So when I was in pain, I opted to not play, you know. But we had a concert, and I still had to play for the concert because I had important parts as a percussionist, you know. And I remember I did my very best at playing all of my parts with just my left hand.
Oh my god, did you really?
Yeah, you played that concert with me, and I did it. I had a song on which I played piano, a song on which I played snare drum with rolls, and another song on which I played, and that same song played a 4-mallet marimba part.
Oh my god.
And I don't remember specifically.
I didn't really know you that well back then.
No, and then I also played a hi-hat part that was really fast. And it's like, yes, I had to cut many corners. I can't play rolls with one hand. I'm not built different.
Yeah.
But like just the fact that I was able to throw that together, you know, like that's kind of that yeah, I wasn't able to provide the full part or the full performance. But I think kind of that same idea of being under that pressure and just doing my best with it, you know. Because I guess that's a memory that, you know, like I was really hurting then, you know, I was really down on myself. And I just remember like, I was like eating dinner with my friends one time and I was trying to eat pasta, but it was sliding around my plate and I couldn't eat it because I was eating with my left hand. And I was just like,
it's tragic.
And a couple of people were like making fun of me a little bit and I played it off, but like it actually like, not because they made fun of me, but like it actually sucked shit.
Yeah,
to put it lightly, you know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, I should talk about my experiences with that a little more sometime, but yeah, it's not necessarily the whole motivation or productivity thing, but just another one of those kind of extreme examples of last minute preparation for something, you know? But I think we've really gone and hit a lot of unexpected ideas with this idea of external productivity.
Yeah. Was
there anything you wanted to hit talking about internal? Anything?
So it was interesting because as we were talking, I just started to note all of the examples that we kind of provided. Yeah, and the interesting thing about all of them is that there is, I mean, in every single one that we talked about so far, especially pertaining to the creative ones, there actually is an element of internal motivation and internal productivity that's involved.
Yeah, definitely.
So I just thought it was interesting that I think the prime could be argued as a balance between the two. And that balance...
I mean, I think they blend... Like I was talking about with deadlines, I think it blends together, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I just think it's... Yeah, it shouldn't be... I mean, the thing that you wrote in your like note thing was verses, right? But I don't genuinely don't think that it's... I mean, obviously we were talking about the comparison between them. But yeah, I don't think there's a conflict there at all.
Do you think you think it's all just the same then, is what you're saying?
No, I don't think it's the same at all.
Because... But it more so overlaps, is what you mean.
Yeah, I think the prime
the Venn diagram has a really big middle.
Yeah, yeah, especially when achieving something great.
Yeah. I understand what you mean. And I think, you know, with something internally motivated, there are always, I guess, what might cause the overlap is that whenever something is externally motivated, there's still the internal drive and or pressure that you put on yourself.
Exactly.
And when you're doing something just for yourself, there's still the idea that other people will see it, you know? So I guess like maybe we could examine extreme examples where it really is just one or the other, you know? I think maybe for internal, maybe one kind of idea of that would just be like rant art. Or like any sort of just ultra personal project.
Yeah.
Where it is truly just for you. You know, that is something that, and I think those things are really special as an artist or just as a person to have. You know.
Yeah. As for external, it's a little bit harder to measure because it feels like there's always a slight amount of internal stuff to it. But I guess stepping away from the world of creativity, that could be like working a job you don't like. Because sometimes it might not even like let's say you're, I don't know, paying to buy a present for one of your siblings or something like. Well, even then there's an internal motivation. There's always going to be some semblance of internal motivation. But,
yeah, if you're a human, probably. But I mean, like, I guess like for a lot of people, it's kind of like school, right? Like, if they had the choice, they wouldn't go. But they have to.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that makes a lot more. Yeah.
Or like working a job for people that have to, like, yeah, there are internal motivators such as making money. But like if you don't make money, you don't survive for like for people that need those jobs like that, you know? So like I feel like just and obviously like trying to simplify any situation too far is kind of dangerous because things are complicated. Yeah. But it's like you can't really it's hard to talk about things when you're like, "Oh yeah, but I mean there is this caveat, you know?" But I it is important to note that, you know, most of the time there is some sort of internal factor.
Yeah.
Even if it seems majorly external like with a job or school.
Yeah.
There usually is something within you.
Yeah.
You know.
And I just say like in terms of happiness, like said, I'd say that having a balance of those two things is actually probably one of the most important things. Because I mean, like in the case that you talked about for like say the example of like rant art, like of course that could be like, you know, that's something that could lead to, you know, you feeling a little bit, you know, better or something like that, or as a means of expressing yourself. But at the same time, like it's not incredibly substantial. But I feel like if there's something that is, I don't know, take the example of like working a job that you enjoy. In that way, there is an internal and an external motivator to it. You know, the external being like, I'm going to make money, or like, because you know you have to show up to do that, and the internal being the enjoyment and the fulfillment that you get out of it. I feel like.
Yeah.
As people, we thrive most in those situations.
Yeah, I get what you mean. You're saying like having structure where you are obligated to do things, or having a schedule, or having deadlines or stuff like that. Like I guess taking that example further of like a job that you enjoy. Right? For me, that would be writing music for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
For me, that would be I'm internally motivated. I have a passion for it, you know? But the external motivator would be that I can share that with people and make a living, you know? And I guess I understand what you mean. The point that that's where people might be happiest is when they have that drive within themselves and the desire to do it, but also gain things from it.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe in a lot of ways, internal productivity is kind of the result of passion and drive and like wanting to do something. And external is more so the reward for it, you know, because anything or like the result of it in a way, you know what I mean? Because like if something is a deadline, then you are rewarded for turning it in with something, you know? And I guess, yeah, it's like if we live our lives centered around getting like rewarded for things, then that'll just kill our motivation. But if we still have drive for things, then the rewards will feel good.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So I guess, yeah, I understand what you mean. And I think, do you think it makes sense to break them down that simply, saying that internal is like drive and passion and external is like rewards and gain?
In structure, yeah.
Yeah, like do you think that's a fair like conclusion to draw about
Yeah,
those two
I'd say it
things?
is. Yeah, of course. As for everything, there are caveats and
Yeah.
things like that. But I like
And I guess going
generally,
off of
yeah.
that diagram you drew about
Mm.
how they interact with each other, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that's interesting.
Honestly, that was good. We kind of just like went right through that.
Brought it all together. I mean, do you think there's anything else to go over?
I'm not really sure, because genuinely that was a very succinct but like pretty cool way of like wrapping that all together, wasn't it?
I guess so. One
Well,
thing that was cool is when I I gave an example of something internal and I was gonna say an external, but then you took it right over and we like went back and forth, you know?
That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, I think yeah, like I said, like an example from my YouTube channel, you know, I have the kind of putting it all together here. I have the drive to do this. I'm passionate about it. I want to do it. That's my internal motivator. And the external motivator is, in a way, the deadlines I've set, the schedule I've given myself, but also that I see that I'm getting rewarded. More people are watching my stuff. I'm getting subscribers. People are giving me supportive comments.
Mm-hmm.
My friends are seeing my stuff and liking it.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps most importantly, I'm having fun with it, you know?
There you go.
So I guess that I understand what you mean, saying that those things really, more often than not, do work together.
Mm-hmm.
And even like that, I guess like at first, like midway through the podcast, I made the brought the idea that, oh, these things overlap.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that they overlap. It's that it comes in pairs,
Mm-hmm.
but they work differently.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting idea we've
Yeah.
come to.
That's really sweet.
This is what you love to see on Daddy Big's Deliriums. Both people changed by the end, you know.
Mm-hmm. A whole
But-
character arc.
Yeah, was there anything else you want? I think that might be good.
I honestly think that's great.
All right, pretty short episode on the podcast here.
Mm-hmm.
But
Covered everything we felt like.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was good. So
Yeah. So I
I
think.
want to thank you guys for tuning in.
Uh-huh.
Let me know down below if you got any thoughts on anything, on any big thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
What you
Always
thought
looking
about
for
the
big
conclusions
thoughts.
we drew here. And yeah,
This will be Sam signing off.
this will be Cam signing off. All right, bye, you little rascals.